And basically what it is it's a digital whiteboard. So just like you would use a whiteboard with students one-on-one, this is going to be your digital option to do that with students from wherever you are working with your students or small groups. And what you see here is a link to the slides. If you want to follow along on the slides, you should be able to click on it. It should be clickable. Otherwise, you can type that in, copy and type it in to another window. But those are the slides, and maybe
I can post that. Maybe post that in the chat.
Yeah, maybe you can copy and paste it in the chat. That would be good. Yeah. So let me know when you've done that, and then I'll go to the next slide.
Oops, I just moved it. Sorry. I'm copying it. I don't know. I'm getting some people saying I can't sign in, but I'm not sure what's going on. So I'm just, okay. So I have just posted a chat. It's from me. It's at the bottom of the chat, and it is a bit.ly that ends in 3, starts with 3, ends in an I. And that is the slides. Again, we'll get these to you because we're also recording the session. You'll be able to watch it again. And these slides will be available also.
Sandra, you need to mute your...
All right, can you hear me, Sandy?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so these are our agreements. We're asking that everybody mute their mic because it is being recorded, and it just makes it easier for everybody to hear. And then if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go along. We are asking you to stay engaged and expect to experience discomfort. That's where the learning happens, as we know with our students as well. Expect and accept a lack of closure. You're not going to learn everything about Jamboard in this session. We're hoping you are using your what I can use on Monday lens and trying to see what can you take from this that you can use right away on Monday. Even if it's a blank Jamboard that you're using with your students on Monday, at least you know how to get to Jamboard and hopefully maybe even try an activity with your students on Monday. So we're asking that you look through that lens today as we go through the training. And just a quick reminder about synchronous versus asynchronous. Jamboard actually works both ways in the Google Suite. So you can do it live synchronously with a student. You can also post it on something like Google Classroom or Seesaw, and students can work with it asynchronously. Jamboard is not jam on a board. That is not what it is. Instead, it is a digital interactive whiteboard that you can use, as I said, synchronously or asynchronously. And students you can make their own copies in Google Classroom for those of you who are part of the Classroom Teachers Google Classroom, or maybe you have your own Google Classroom with the students you work with. So it works really well and integrates well with Google Classroom. Sandy, did you want to say something about Google Jamboard here?
Sure, and I just did change the permissions. If some of you guys are in this meet, not with your WCC USD account, that's why you couldn't get into the slides, so I changed that, but it is available. So I work with assistive technology, so I'm in special ed classrooms all the time and see what teachers and instructional assistants are doing with students and using easels and whiteboards and scratch paper and graph paper and all those kinds of things that you just work with kids and you're trying to work through a problem or practice writing something. So that's come up as a need in this distance learning environment. So kind of what we're doing is we're just trying to show you that there are some tools that you could use online that are interactive, where you could be engaged in an activity and both of you or a small group could be moving things around or writing or solving a math problem at the same time. So just kind of think about this. This is like a virtual pile of scratch paper or a virtual little whiteboard that you might use with a student.
All right, thank you. So what is Jamboard? It's interactive, it's collaborative, it's a tool, it's actually quite easy to use, and as I said, easily shareable in other platforms like Google Classroom. So here are a few examples. These are mostly primary examples from the elementary level. of ways you can use a Jamboard, such as moving numbers around, putting numbers in order, or making words. And we're going to practice making some of these things today. Hopefully you'll get a chance to do that. That's our goal, is that you'll actually open up a Jamboard and try this out. The first tool we're going to learn about today is called a sticky note. So just like the Post-its you would use regularly, these are digital Post-its that you can put on the Jamboard, and you will be able to type. It is a limited amount of text that you can put on a sticky note, but it's usually enough for whatever you need to write a few sentences or so. You can choose what color you want, so that's the color choice you see up at the top. And then you can also use it as a text box if you don't want to use it as a sticky note, because there's actually a lined paper background that you could choose if you want to make it transparent. So that's what the transparent option is. And then once you're done writing your sticky note, then you click save, and then it will post onto the Jamboard. So I'm going to demo that real quick. So there is a Jamboard. It's called a welcome Jamboard. So I'm going to click on this link here, and it's going to take me to the Jamboard. Can everybody still see my screen or no? No. Now can you see my screen? All right. So this is our welcome Jamboard. So I'm going to choose the sticky note tool, which is over here on the left. The left are where all the tools are. And this one that looks like a square with some writing on it, there's the sticky note tool. And what we've asked you to include on your sticky note is your name, what school you're at, and then how you're feeling. So you can put, whoops. Oh, I don't know what happened. Nope, that's not what I want. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, so your name. So I am at Madera. And how am I feeling? I'm feeling happy that it is sunny and we have blue skies today. Then I'm going to click save. And of course, if I want to change the color, I can choose a different color or even that transparent option. But I think I'm going to go with yellow, kind of matches happy. Then I'm going to click save. And then if you wanted to write another one, that's why it's still open, or you can cancel. And then there is my sticky note. So we're going to give you about 5 minutes to go ahead and give that a try and see if you can join the Jamboard. I'm going to go back to our presentation here. And then if you're in Google Meet, you should be able to click on where it says Jamboard Welcome, and it should take you to the Jamboard directly. So go ahead and try that out. All right, good. I see some people we got a few people in there.
Can you drop the link in the chat just in case?
For the Jamboard?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Except when I go back to the, oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, I dropped it into the chat. I think for some people it was linked if you were part of West Contra Costa. So if it wasn't working, it's probably because you weren't signed in with West Contra Costa. But now I took that off. So you should be able.
It says currently too many people are on.
Yeah, I just got the same thing. So I just tried to go onto it. So Teresa, if you still have it, can you just can you go over to that tab and just kind of show people what it looks like when people have added to it? Do you still have that tab open?
Yeah. So you can see people are actively putting their Post-its, their sticky notes on. people who are able to get in. So I guess there's a limit to how many people can get into Jamboard. Only so many.
So if you had a small group, you know, even just a one-to-one situation, you could be brainstorming together, or if you had a small group, you're not going to have a problem like that. They're going to all be able to go in there and add ideas and comments at the same time. And it's happening right now, and they can change the color and move them around. You could sort them and do all kinds of stuff just with stickies, right?
Yeah, and if that board gets too full, you can also move over and add some more to the next one if it gets too full. So you can add as many whiteboards as you need space for. All right. So I guess I'll go back to the presentation then, since not everybody can get in there. Does that sound good?
Yeah. So you're gonna have these slides. There's a video. You all have Jamboard. So I'm seeing some comments in the chat. You know, how am I going to do this if I can't do it? So we have 252 people in here. We can't have 252 people on that Jamboard at one time. So that's why you're not able to get in. It's not that the tool doesn't work. It's that we have completely overwhelmed it. That's too, you would never have a class that big. So you're just going to have to be patient and just sit back and try and watch, and then you're going to have to play on your own later.
All right, so I'll go back to the presentation then. So we can keep going, and then maybe if you had a chance to try the sticky note, maybe we can give some other people a chance to try the other one. Actually, the other one you're going to make your own. So this is what it looks like in the web version. There is an app version for like Androids and iPhones and iPads that looks a little bit different, but this is the one that you're going to see on the Chromebook. This is the version you would see on a Chromebook and that the students would also see. So there are the tools on the left. So you have an eraser, a pointer, a sticky note. You can also insert images into the whiteboard if you had a text that you wanted to show, or even if you wanted to post a worksheet that you wanted a student to work on, you could take a picture of it and upload it onto the Jamboard. And then there's also a laser pointer. That's that last tool. It says image, but it's actually a laser pointer. And then there's some options with the 3 dots over there on the corner, which we'll get to in a bit. So backgrounds, you can change the background on your Jamboard. And what's really nice about the backgrounds is you can use, for example, lined paper. You can do graph paper or a dots background. So there's some different options of different backgrounds that you could use on the Jamboard. So when you go to Jamboard, the way you can find Jamboard is through the waffle, which is in Google next to your picture up over there in the corner, in the upper right-hand corner. You click on the waffle and you should see the Jamboard. It's the orange J. And then yours will probably be empty, so you won't see any Jamboards unless you've already created a Jamboard or someone has shared a Jamboard with you. But this box should be empty when you first click on it. And then to create a Jamboard, you would click on that orange plus sign, and that will get you to open up your first Jamboard. So that's the link. That's the other way you can get there on the green link there, the jamboard.google.com. If you just type that in the web address, that would be another way to get to Jamboard.
So if you're on an iPad, this is going to be different because it's probably an app. But for any of you that are on your Chromebook that you got recently from the district, or if you're just on your home machine, you could just open a new tab and you could just search Google Jamboard, or you can go to the little waffle that, go back one slide, in the upper left hand, yeah, that little waffle kind of up there. And you click on that and then you scroll down a little bit. Jamboard is also linked there. And it's kind of, you saw the icon, it's kind of a orange J, and that will open up. So if you are in the actual Meet and you are able to get to Jamboard, can you just say yay in the chat so that we know that someone actually got there?
And you should, if you're in Meet, you should be able to click on this link on the slide that I'm showing right now that says jamboard.google.com. If you click right there, it should take you to your Jamboard in your account. And it's creating a brand new Jamboard. So not one that I've created, but one that you're going to test out and play with some of those tools I just showed you, like the pens, the eraser, the background features. And just some time to play with them.
They can't click on the links in your slideshow when you're presenting your screen. They're not live, I don't think. That's the problem. But I did post the slides. So if they have the slides open in another tab, they could be following, they could click. That's what number slide is that? That's probably.
I can't.
Yeah, I can't.
Slide 13. Slide 13.
But seriously, you could just go to Google and just Jamboard, and you're gonna see a screen like what Teresa just showed. So it's basically, like I said, like you have a little pile of whiteboards and you can make multiple. And someone asked about, you know, you could solve a problem, so you could break down a math problem in multiple parts and things like that. Okay. So we got a lot of yays and some saying that I don't have it, but it is a free tool offered by Google. So we will figure that out. But it seems like quite a few people were able to get to that, and you can then know that you can go in as we share more ways that it could be used. It's kind of you just kind of need to let your imagination think of how you might use this. This is about learning about something, seeing that it's not too hard. One thing that Teresa and I talked about the other day is, we'll talk about this, like you could lead a brainstorm, like you could be the one that's typing on a Jamboard, meaning I'm standing up at the whiteboard and I'm writing and kids are sharing ideas. That might be a safe way to start. And then at some point, you could also then step into letting them write their own ideas. So you need to think about, who am I working with? You know, how comfortable am I? How comfortable are they? And, you know, how do I want to take baby steps to make this a collaborative tool, that it might not be everyone writing on the paper at the same time the first time you use it.
Do we have any questions in the chat?
It's just, I mean, I have some links don't work, but I'm not sure like what links they are. So it's hard to, but I've got lots of yays. People have found it. Some people have gotten booted out, but I think they might've gotten booted out the one that we were too many people in. I don't really see any specific questions about finding it.
So I'm just going to quickly share. Yeah. So I opened up, all I did was I typed jamboard.google.com up in the address bar, and it took me directly to this page right here, which is my Google Jamboard page, and my pictures over here, the waffles there, but I can see all my Jamboards that I've used, including the one from today, which is now full of sticky notes. So I just wanted to show people that if you just type it up in the web address, it should take you here as well, jamboard.google.com.
I have a question. With this Jamboard and the whiteboard, it's connected to the Google Classroom. Can we, I work in the high school, so I want their worksheets given from their teacher in the Google Classroom. Can I open it up on the whiteboard and help them work out problems on the whiteboard?
You would need to convert the worksheet into a JPEG image, and then you'll be able to upload it into a Jamboard. It has to be a JPEG image. It can't be like a Google Doc, for example. You would have to save it as a JPEG, which is an image file, and then that's how you would be able to upload it to a Jamboard.
Or you could take a picture with your camera and then insert that photo into it.
Yes, if you have the worksheet, the physical.
Cool, thank you.
All right, should we move on to the next part? Have people had enough time to play a little bit with a Jamboard?
Yeah, I think so. And just remember, there are some other resources that you'll have that you can go back and play. And I love it that someone just said, like, I can't get into it, but I'm just going to kind of sit back and try and learn and then explore it later. I love that attitude. That's kind of what we're going to need with this large group.
All right. So, oh, should I continue?
Just I have a quick question, please. So I opened from the link you put it here, and it works with me very good. But when I was trying to open it from the waffle, it says I need to do the account. I need to create an account. Is it gonna be different when I use it or open it again or something?
So you're probably not logged into Chrome with your WCCUSD.net account. So this is a school tool. You have to remember, anytime you're working with kids in our district or doing anything in classroom, you cannot do it with your personal account or Gmail. It has to be WCCUSD.net. And the kids have to be in their WCC Schools Google account, but when they're in their Chromebook, that's what they're in. So that's probably it, but I think we're going to move on and then we can come back to other questions at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you see your picture up in the corner, then you know that you're probably logged in. If it's asking you to log in, then you'll have to re-log in with your district credentials. But we're going to talk about sharing next. So this is how you would share it with your students. There are a few places and a few ways that you can share it. We're going to get into how to share it on Google Classroom in a little bit, but this is basic sharing, which is you want to have some overall permissions, and if you want more than one kid to see it, if you want them to be able to just view it and watch you, or if you want them to actually edit it. And you can put their actual district email in here where it says by email. You can put the students that you want to give access to in that box by their school email. Or if you want to give it to everyone, then you can change the permission on the link sharing if you want to create a link for your Jamboard. And you can choose, just like you would with a Google Doc, you can choose which level of security you want. Do you want it just for specific people? Do you want it only people in WCC USD? Or do you want anybody with the link to be able to share it? So I'm going to go over to the Jamboard, the welcome one that we had. And I'm going to quickly demo how to share this. So I'm going to go over to the share button. Okay, and then the settings, all those different settings are here. So it says share with people settings. I have editors right now, which means everybody can write on it, or I can just have viewers and commenters. So those are some other settings. And here's the link. This is the one we want you to try. So there are 3 options here. I chose anyone with the link can view it, and anyone can view it. You can change it to view only, which is what we're asking you to do for the one that you just created and played with. And then you're going to copy the link and then go ahead and paste it in the chat so that people who have access to the chat can take a look at it at your Jamboard, just so that you get some practice sharing the link of your Jamboard with somebody else. And then just make sure it's view only or viewer versus editor.
200. Better make sure I'm muted here.
All right, so go ahead and you try now, share your Jamboard so anyone with the link can view. And then, as I said, you're going to paste your Jamboard link in the chat, just so you can get some practice sharing your Jamboard that you were just playing with and experimenting with.
So a couple questions have just come up. So Teresa uses Google Classroom right now. So yes, you can share a Jamboard via your Google Classroom, the link, and with groups of students, but you would need to make sure that they, you know, if you want them to write on it, they have permissions. You could also post it to Seesaw also, correct, Teresa?
Yes, so you would post it as a link. So the same way I just showed you how to share the link, you would copy the link, then you would open up Seesaw and then click on link because you're making a link to your activity, and then that's where you would post the link in Seesaw.
And this is the same way that all Google Docs act. So this kind of sharing, the way that I explain this to myself is anytime you start creating a Jamboard or a Google Doc or a Google slideshow, it's yours. You own it. It's private. Only you can see it. And then you decide who you want to be able to see it or edit it. And that's the permissions part of working in Google. So you can create it, play with it. It can be rough draft, and then you don't change those viewing rights until you're ready for them to see it. But just like earlier today, when I posted the slides and it was only for everyone in their WCC account, some of you are in this meet with your Gmail and you couldn't open it because I had that door closed and then I opened it for everyone with a link. So you start to see that this is a common sharing protocol for all Google documents. And it takes a while to learn, but once you get it, it makes sense. And then you don't, everything you make isn't, people think everything they do in Google is out on the web. It's not out there until you allow it to be. Everything you make isn't, people think everything they do in Google is out on the web.
I have a question. Could we create our own Google Classrooms?
I think you can, but I'd have to confirm that. But you have a WCCUSD.net email, and I think you could. But when you're supporting a teacher in a classroom, the most effective way would be to be a co-teacher on that classroom, and you can message and create assignments for subgroups of students. So it doesn't have to go to everyone. When you create a lesson or an activity, you could just say, I only want these 4 kids to see it. And that's kind of a smarter, more streamlined way, so the kids don't have to go 2 places. But some of our elementary learning center teachers do have their own classroom where they do some other stuff, but then most of them are actually co-teachers on the gen ed teachers classroom. So it's kind of how you guys work and collaborate.
Mommy, can I watch a little bit of a movie?
All right, so should we continue on then? It looks like some people were able to share their links I saw in the chat. We'll keep moving forward.
There's actually quite a few. So you could come in and click on one of those if you want. I mean, we just want you to, at this point, just that you even know what Jamboard is and you know where to get it, right? So you can just Google it, or you go to the Waffle and you go to Jamboard. So I posted the link to the attendance thing again. I cannot fill it out for anyone. You have to do it. So if you can't fill out the attendance link, then my email is soliver and you need to email me. There's no other way that I can address that issue. So let's go, Teresa.
All right, so the next part is just showing you that you can see where students are on the Jamboard, because it'll have a little picture of them next to what they're working on. And it has the letter of their name. If they haven't customized their Google login yet, it'll just have a letter, but you'll be able to see what students are working on. The one thing Jamboard does not have, like other Google Docs have, which is a revision history, so you can't see which student has done what after the fact, after it's been closed or reopened again. So that's the only other part, is if you want students to say who did the work, then you'll have to be very specific and tell them to include their name on it if it's not live, if you're not looking at it live.
Mommy, can I watch Mickey Mouse Clubhouse on Disney Plus?
And then when you're meeting with students in Google Meet, Jamboard works really well, which is how I've been presenting it. You would just start your Google Meet, and then you would click present and show your Jamboard that way. And what's nice is that the students can see you side by side with the Jamboard. So your photo, your video would be on one side of their screen, and then the Jamboard would be on the other side of their screen. So it works really nicely when you're working one-on-one with students, or even with a small group. You could see a panel of students on the right side. All right, so we're not going to try this out, but I will show an example of another way you can use a Jamboard, which is uploading a text, an image of a text, and then students can also highlight. I know someone mentioned a worksheet, so Jamboard really works well that way virtually to highlight and annotate a text. So I'm going to show you one that I used with my 3rd grade students. And this is, we were doing a read aloud and we were practicing envisioning. And so I asked a few students to go in and highlight parts of the text where their brain was envisioning as they were listening to the text. And then I also asked them to put a sticky note with the letter E, because I was getting them to practice, using the tools like the highlighter and the sticky note. So that's another way that you can use the Jamboard, is for text annotation and highlighting. All right. And then once you create your Jamboards, they live in Google Drive like any other Google Doc that you've created. And you can find it in your Drive just by clicking Jamboard, or when you create your Jamboard, you can tell Jamboard where you want that file to be saved. So there's a few options there. Those of you who are working with Google Classroom, you can assign the Jamboard to students through Google Classroom in the same ways you could assign a Google Doc or a Google slide that you made. You can assign it 3 ways. Students can view the Jamboard, and that's where you're basically writing on it. Students can edit the file. That means everybody's working on the same one together. Or you can have it so that it makes a copy of the Jamboard for each student. So there's a few options there once you get into Google Classroom and create an assignment. And then here are some other examples in math that you could use Jamboard for. So for example, there's a link here. Once you're able to get to these slides, you can click on the link. If you want to use Cuisenaire rods or any other kind of digital math manipulative, you can import those to a Jamboard. I'll share one that I did with my students, which was, we were doing a number talk. Go ahead and open that up. And I was just basically having kids share their thinking about a math problem. The problem was 80 minus 59. And then I wrote the kid's name and they shared their thinking. And then I used different colors with the pen tool so that they can see different ways to see a math problem. And then again, I just used a new slide for another problem and had a few more kids share and a few more kids. And you can have as many of these blank canvases that you need for whatever activity you're doing with your students.
And did they each pick a separate color, or how did you manage that?
For the math one,
Yeah.
I was the one writing. So they weren't actually writing on the board. I was writing for them because they were explaining their thinking and I was just making it visible for them.
Got it.
So I was actually in control of that. But you can definitely have your kids do the writing, of course, themselves and have them pick a color for each person, which is a nice way to manage that, the different kids. You also have language arts, and there's an example of like a textbook or some pictures you could import and have kids annotate and talk about. All right. And then we have mind maps, some brainstorming options, science, lots of different things you could do there. If you're checking in with students, doing some SEL work, seeing how they're feeling, could use something like a morning check-in board. Again, some of that word work with the elementary students, making different word families and creating these out of sticky notes, which is really nice to move letters around. And then there's other ways you can use it, music, art. And then a few tips, change permissions. If you want students to stop writing on the Jamboard midway and you just say, okay, that's enough, you can go ahead and change the permissions on the Jamboard. And this little video here is showing you how to do that. You click on the share button and then you switch from editing access to view access. And then you save those changes and then students will only be able to view at that point, and it'll stop them from being able to edit the Jamboard that you created. Touchscreen is really great. If you have a district Chromebook, they should be touchscreen, and it's easy to use a stylus. I highly recommend a stylus if you don't have one, to get one when using Jamboard. It's easier than using a mouse, and especially when you're using the touchscreen. And we're at the Q&A.
Before we go to that, can you just pull up, since you're sharing, just pull up a Jamboard and do graph paper and just show them how you would use the graph paper for mathematical thinking? And there's been some questions while she's doing that.
Sandy, can you do that? Because I actually need to step away for a quick second.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you mind doing that?
Yeah, let me try and get over there. Okay. So I went up to my waffle and I went to Jamboard, and then I'm just going to do a new jam. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew how you can do the graph paper. So you have different kinds of graph paper that you could be using. And so this could be helpful for, and here's just backgrounds, but lining up some of the, so that maybe I do like a pen and I just want blue, so you can kind of use that if you're trying to, if you're doing a problem and the student tends to write in a certain way, sometimes graph paper can be helpful to say, like, you're trying to do it in this area, like try and keep your math problem right in this area. And they kind of use that as a guide to lining up things. So that can be helpful. And I know this is elementary because I know someone said, but people use Jamboard for calculus and pre-calc in high school too. So this isn't limited. Teresa is an elementary school teacher. So we just, some of the examples in the slides that we grabbed, and I wanted her to share some examples from her class because I thought they were great, because the one she did with the math and the one that she did with the teacher college, having them comment on what they were reading, she just did this week with her third grade students. So it's not like it's something that she's only using once in a while. It just kind of becomes of the way that she's working with them when she's meeting with them online. And it would just get more and more comfortable. And with older students, they could be leading a Jamboard session. Like, so that it may be their job to share something, and then they're eliciting and asking questions from their classmates, and then you're participating. So with the older students, they could create their own rather than just joining yours. So at this point, this is hard because there's a lot of people. If you have a specific question that you want to put in the chat, or if you want to try and unmute, a lot of you are on a stream, which means you don't have the exact same powers that the people in the Meet do. Try Jamboard. So can you show how students would write on a Jamboard? So a Jamboard is a piece of paper that you can invite students to write on by changing the permissions. So it's your piece of paper or your whiteboard. And someone asked earlier, what's the difference between the whiteboard session that's going on right now and ours? I actually don't know, because I don't know what tools those presenters are sharing. This is a Google tool. So this is in our suite of tools, like I said, docs, slides, all those things. Jamboard is one that has come front and center, especially last spring with distance learning, because people wanted a way to interact with students online. And this was a very easy one to learn. And it's really easy to share, and it's really easy then to say, okay, we're done with that, and change the permissions. And then you have that documented, and you can come back and look at it later because it's saved in your drive. So it's just like a kind of simple way to do it. All right, so any other questions? Do you need? Yeah, so every time you create a jam, it's private, and then you need to change the permissions. So that's,
I see.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about if it was compatible with Zoom, and actually that's all I use with my students is Zoom. So I just share my screen on Zoom. So
it
does
works
work
exactly like this. Yeah, it's sharing your screen in Zoom or with, so Zoom so I just want to address this. This is another thing. Zoom, when we first went into distance learning, there was something that was working, and students were able to annotate on the screen. Annotate, I mean write. And it doesn't work now. And I think we don't have that feature. There were a lot of things that were free for now in the spring because every company was throwing stuff at us because they were trying to get us to buy it later. So it was a little bit of a like crazy, have this subscription's free. Students cannot annotate in a Zoom session with something that you share. It's not on a Chromebook. It doesn't work. So this was an option that people started using last spring, and they really liked it. So it's a safer bet. If your student at home is on a Windows machine, they might be able to annotate, and that's why you might have certain students who can write on the screen, but it's not working on the Chromebooks. Okay.
Sorry, did you answer that question? That next question that says, can students write on it in Zoom as well?
Well, I'm kind of around that. So the Jamboard is the Jamboard. So it really is separate from Zoom or Meet. The Jamboard is something you would post the link and then the kids would go in and be able to write on it. It really doesn't matter how you're sharing it. It could be posted to Classroom. It could be Seesaw. It could be a link that you send out via Remind or Class Dojo or different things people are using, but then you're in there together writing on it. They could even write on it for homework and then you look at it the next day. So you don't have to be in it together to collaborate on it. It can be asynchronous and synchronous, like back to one of the first slides, right? And it's probably not, I think we're getting like too kind of like esoteric now, but
I think it's just, if you're working with older kids, it might be a good idea to teach them how to split their screen. There are commands they can learn to split their screen so they can look at the Jamboard and have the Zoom window open if you're using Zoom. So there are ways to split the screen.
And there is a Jamboard app. So if you're working on an iPad or an Android tablet or a phone, you can add Jamboard and it would be small and you could use your fingers to zoom, but you can create stickies and annotate on a phone.
Yeah, someone was asking if it works on cell phones, and it does.
Yeah. All of the Chromebooks do have the ability to right click. It's a 2-finger click. They all can. And so that's something that you need to look into, or we can follow up, but, or you can always plug in an external mouse to offer right click. So all Chromebooks have the ability to right click.
And someone's asking if we can show how to place a document on Jamboard.
It has to be a picture. So
it has to be an image.
So if I had a handout and I had this as a PDF, I would need to turn it into a JPEG. And then I would basically, just like if you've ever used Google Slides, you insert the picture into the slide and then you can write on it. Or I could use my phone. If I had it, like say I was in a teacher's, they have a binder or a book that they're using, you could take a picture of a page of the book that you want to work on. It's a picture, then you would say bring picture in, and then they would, you could annotate on that. So it's a technology that inserting an image into a Jamboard is like inserting an image into a Google Doc or inserting an image into a Google Slide. It's all the same. So it's something that's worthwhile learning how to do, because then it will apply to all the Google Suites applications. Yeah, so I think it can be a PNG or a JPEG or different things. You just can't insert a PDF. So you would save as, and then you would save it as an image, which can be JPEG or a PNG or different things. Okay, so does anyone else want to unmute? We have more minutes for questions. I know that was a lot, and there's a lot of you. And again, thanks for your patience in dealing with this. But it's kind of like we're just talking to our computers. So who am I supposed to enter in my share for this meeting? I'm not sure what that question means, Emily.
Sandy,
yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I'm a little confused.
Okay.
So if
Okay.
you're using Zoom, you would have to send the link to your student for them to open the link, because just sharing your screen, they wouldn't be able to access the Jamboard through that.
Exactly, because students on Chromebooks can't annotate on top of it, right?
Right.
And really, there'd be no reason to even use Jamboard for that, because if they could annotate, you could just have anything up there, right? And they'd be able to just look at the picture of the page of the book. But you could just put it in the chat. You know, you can put the link to the Jam, or you've invited them and you say, hey, you guys, I created a Jamboard for tomorrow's session. and everyone go to your Jamboard and it would be there because the kids have the same waffle, right? The kids go to Jamboard, so they're going to see ones that are shared with them. Just like if they go to their drive, they see things that are there, or they go to their classroom and they see, oh, I have an OT session tomorrow with these 3 kids, and here's the link of that I need to open that we're going to use during that session, right? Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
Did I clarify it? Google Slides are awesome. And so I think if you've ever have a teacher that's using Google Slides, you can't draw on Google Slides. You can't add a Post-it to Google Slides. So it's, if you take that thought and then just think this is just kind of like a whole bunch of pieces of paper, linked together that you can actually brainstorm on. It has a different purpose, but to me, there's also a tiny bit of overlap. So you kind of have to think of what am I trying to do? And this would be get involvement. You want to say everyone has to share one idea and I'm going to put it on there, or everyone has to share their own idea and put it on there themselves.
And I was going to say, somebody asked about right-clicking.
Yeah, I kind of addressed that. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I was going to say
No.
the Chromebook, you can right-click.
Yeah.
It's just in the corner.
It's in the corner, or it's 2 fingers, or there's different settings. You can actually change it in the trackpad settings. So that's something, and that would be a great question for IT to clarify if you really have you need a little help on that if you think a device isn't working. And there was a question earlier about a device. I just want to let you know that like technology stuff, the IT group down off Potrero has a help phone line. There is an email. There's an online form that you can fill out if you have questions about your device not working. So that's really your best place for technology not working for you personally or not working for one of your students. I just want to let you know that like technology stuff. Sorry, I'm going to mute that. Okay, so it is, I don't know, should I just post the, so we do have any other questions here? So we've posted the attendance thing a few times. So if you did join us late, the one that is just posted now at 2:36 is that you listened to Mr. Duffy's presentation at the beginning, and that just meant that you're here. And then we have a second link that I'm going to post in just a few minutes that is an evaluation for this particular session. And
there was one slide I didn't get to, which was the resources slide.
Oh, yeah. Why don't you do that real quick?
Second to last one that I wanted people to see real quick.
Yeah, let's do that, and then I'll post the link.
Okay. All right. So this second to last slide, if you want to play around with Jamboard or get more inspiration, we included some links here on the second to last slide. In Google for Education, there's a video you can watch that has even more detailed explanation of how to use Jamboard. A website I really refer to a lot is called Ditch That Textbook, and they have a lot of really good ideas there for a lot of different Google apps, but definitely that's the one for Jamboard. The link there, 20 tips and ideas for using Jamboard. And then there's also a YouTube video if you want to watch that, and then also a link for even more Jamboard activities. So we have lots of resources on that second to last slide if you want to play around with Jamboard some more and get some more ideas of how you can use it with your students. All right, so the evaluation will be posted in the chat.
You're on mute, Sandra.
Can you show that last slide one more time with all those resources, please?
Yeah, sorry, I was talking to myself. And you're going to have this, so you don't need to write any of this down. I'll post the slides again. These are just Google Slides, so all of these are live. Click on that Jamboard activities link, Teresa, just so you can. This one was shared with us. Has a bunch of ideas of ways you could use it in science, and there, like Teresa said, there's whole bunch of people who've created Jamboards that are using like the manipulatives for math and things like that. So there's a lot. It's not as good as hands-on, and we know that, but there are some ways to bridge that gap, just a tiny bit of being more interactive and colorful and using visuals. So there's some examples. And then if you go back to that slide, this has a lot, actually. This has a lot more than I thought. I was just looking at that first page. The video is a little bit long, but I think it's a teacher in San Francisco Unified that kind of walks through it again. So for those of you that came in late, or if it was a little bit choppy in the presentation today, you could watch that, and he shows examples of how, if you have kids messing around, how you can turn off permissions just for individual kids, but the lesson can still go on. And so there's some controls as far as, kids that just used to it and learn how to interact with it appropriately.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
If I use the Jambox Jamboard over Zoom, will it still be save it on my Google Drive?
Yes.
Okay. Thank
Anything
you.
you do in Google will just and you don't even need to click save, it will save automatically. And it will also be, if you go to the waffle, Teresa and I were playing with this, if you go to the waffle, just all your jams are there too. So there's a couple different ways to get there.
Okay, thank you.
I have just a quick question, if I can. Sometimes we have the kids, when we try to split screens, because we've been doing that, on the computer it says high CPU usage. And I know when I looked it up, that's because a lot of windows are open. So I don't know if is that a question for like IT? I don't know how.
Yeah, that is. I don't know, but that's weird because just splitting a screen on one machine, that doesn't really make sense. So I would put that in. I would explain it like that in a help desk and say, I need some help on, I'm working, for example, I don't know, but I'm working with special ed students and I really need them to be able to do this. I need some help figuring this out. And someone can actually come take over your screen and kind of help you troubleshoot that.
Okay, thank you.
So
and some people are asking about the evaluation, and I posted it in the chat.
Oh.
I posted it in the chat, but if you're getting a message that
no,
says
you did the
access,
attendance one. You did the attendance one.
I did the eval one earlier too.
Oh, okay.
But some people are getting access denied. It's because you have to be logged in with your WCC USD account because they're collecting email addresses from that evaluation.
So I would say if access is denied, I would write it down or grab that link and put it on a note or something because you want to do it. And again, if you're on a device with your Gmail or your personal email, you can't get into district documents. It's not going to track you. And I know a lot of you are in here because I had to let you in, not on your WCC account, which is fine. You're here, but you just won't be able to do certain things.
But it also says it's too full. Like it kept kicking, it went.
Oh, the evaluation. I wonder if that whole thing's getting slammed by everyone doing it right now. That's very likely. So maybe just click on it and have it on a tab and just try and do it, by this evening or something. I don't know.
I just clicked on it and I had no problem getting into the evaluation.
Okay.
But getting into this session, it wouldn't let me in for the longest time. I had to try and watch it on the stream because there was a maximum of 250 people.
Yeah, you had to go to the stream and it should have sent you to this live stream automatically because we were maxed out like 5 minutes into the session.
I logged in 3 times and I was in the session and it kicked me out 3 times.
Okay. Yeah, we're not doing that. So I have no idea. Yeah. I mean, I've never done a session with 253 people. So this is all new to me.
So where can I find the link again? Excuse me.
I'm sorry. The little chat, in the little same place we went earlier. So you're going to go in the upper right-hand corner, not the people, not the little picture of the people.
The chat.
The little chat. At the very bottom, the last thing from me at the last thing. So are those the slides that you just put there again? Here, I'll put it again at the bottom.
And the slides have both the attendance link and the evaluation links on them. If you open up the slides. The first and last slides have both of the attendance link and the evaluation link on the last slide.
So at that point, thanks for sticking with us. And I'm Sandra Oliver, and we have Teresa Reyes, and our names are on the first slide. And so if you want to ask us a question, we both work for the district. I'm assistant technology coach, and Teresa, third grade teacher at Madera. If you could not do any of the links, you can email me. I'll do those, S. Oliver. So if you need a link to either the attendance link or the evaluation, because somehow something isn't working, you can't get to the chat because you're on a device that doesn't have that, then feel free to email me and I will try and get back to you as soon as I can. We really appreciate your time. There were some great questions. This is really worth exploring. The only way you learn anything like this is to play. So just play on your own and just open it up and fool around and draw and try and do some of those things. Watch the videos, look at the tutorials, and think about, you know what, this might not be the tool that's going to work for this particular student, but maybe it is. So give it a try. And again, you learn how to use this, you're going to be that much closer to understanding Google Docs and slides and the sharing. And again, I fought it for a long time. I've been a Google trainer for a long time. I fought Google, I fought my calendar. And then when I joined the club, I could never go back. Like, I do everything in Google now. I keep a calendar, I do docs. It's all on the drive. It doesn't matter what device I'm on, I can get to it. So there's a lot of advantages to kind of jumping in and learning a little bit more about the Google suite of tools and applications. And if you're done with that evaluation, I think that's it, right, Teresa? There's nothing else they need to do. You can, we're done a few minutes early, but I think we covered everything and there's no more questions.
Enjoy your Friday, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Go get some fresh air because we can actually go outside.
There's blue skies.
Thank you.
Go enjoy the blue skies.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing knowledge.
Sandra?
Thank you.
Sandra,
Yep.
for some reason I was kicked off and I
Okay.
missed all of that.
Oh,
I
Mr.
just now
Dixon, you might have to have a
back on.
private Jamboard lesson with me sometime. So just, you know.
No, I got the Jamboard part.
What do you
I
need?
didn't get- Was there a test or something? I missed
There's an
that.
evaluation. I'll put it at the bottom at the chat. Can you get into the chat right now? Put it again. That's the evaluation of the session. Did you do the attendance one earlier?
I think I did, but.
Where you just put your name and your ID number and your school. That was like at 2:15 or
At
at
the
one.
at the bottom of the chat?
Well, now it's so there's two links we've shared. The first one was I'm alive and breathing, and I just saw Mr. Duffy talk, and that was at about 1:45. And then this one is the session's over, and this is some feedback on the session. And this, I think, probably I actually don't know, some questions about the PD schedule in general. I didn't create it. This was created by the district. Yeah.
Okay, so.
So if you click on that one, yeah.
Hey, Sarah, can I put my name and ID over there because I couldn't find that website?
No, we're not collecting attendance in the chat. Teresa and I are just presenters. We're not doing the
I'm
attendance.
trying to get back to you said 145, the Mr. Dabby?
Well, we posted it a few times. It's actually at 2:47. Teresa posted it again. It says attendance link. I'll put it again at the bottom. It's probably in here about 6 times. So it says WCC attendance at the end of the link. So you know that's one, and then the one for evaluation says evaluation at the end.
I think evaluation is the questions, right? I have
evaluation, yeah. So the attendance is that you was done earlier after Mr. Duffy's talking.
Where is the evaluation? I don't see it here.
I'll do that again. Hold on. I'll put it at the bottom.
Sandy, we can stop recording now, I think.
Oh, God. I think this would be such good material for recording. Gosh darn it. Yeah. It's going to keep them on the edge of their seat. Hold on. I'm stopping that.